positive manner. And whereas intensive is something where you read it very carefully in detail to understand every word and idea. Now, what are the features of intensive reading? It focuses on accuracy and detail, and which is very, an intensive reading, which is done very slowly and carefully and used for study and analysis. So the best example I can quote here is reading your textbooks. Whereas when you read a storybook or a novel, it is the extensive reading. And when if you read a textbook and you study for exams, analyzing a passage, all these fall under intensive reading. Run. Now, coming to the writing aspect of it. So when we are going with the topic review writing, we need these both, reading as well as writing. Now, writing cannot be done without reading, isn't it? When you have to review something and write about something, you have to read it first. So basically, there are two types of reading. That is what I told you just now. Extensive, intensive reading is done. Only then we come up with the writing aspect of it to give a review. Now, the first part of this writing is extensive writing. What is this extensive writing? That is something which involves writing freely and at length to express ideas. Now, what are the features of this extensive writing? Now, the extensive writing focuses on content and creativity. Less worry about grammar at first. Helps in improving fluency. Now, for example, writing essays, stories, blogs, writing about personal experiences such as journaling, okay, where you are free to write the content and basically people look for the creativeness of the writing part of it. And that is called as extensive writing. Now, moving on to the intensive writing. So what does this mean, intensive writing? This is something which focuses on accuracy, grammar, and correct structure. What are the features of this intensive writing? Now, a lot of attention is given to the grammar, vocabulary, and format. So unlike the extensive writing, intensive writing looks into all these aspects. In particular, short and precise writing, used for practice and improvement. Now, the best examples for intensive writing is writing sentences using correct grammar, completing exercises, or writing formal letters. I think you all know that during your exam, this is what you are most of the time writing intensively, isn't it? You look into the structure of the sentence, know, you write it very carefully. Next. So I just wanted to show you the small table over here. So what is extensive reading? That is, we read something for general understanding and the purpose is enjoyment and fluency. Now, when I talk about the intensive reading, you read it for detailed understanding, like your course books, your reading for exam, where the purpose is to study and analysis. Now, coming to the extensive writing. What is extensive writing? That is nothing but a free expression where you don't hold yourself back to be very creative about it. Next, the purpose is creativity and fluency. Next, moving on, it is the intensive writing. What is this intensive writing? It's nothing but the main focus is on accuracy and correctness. That is what your answers in your examination look for, intensive writing. Now, the purpose here is grammar improvement. Now we move on to writing reviews. So what do you understand by this review writing? So far we have learned about the reading aspect and the writing aspect. Now these both put together, you can come up with a review. Okay, so extensive and intensive reading and writing are directly connected to writing reviews, like the book review, article review, or a movie review. Now, what is the role of extensive reading in reviews? It helps you to understand the overall idea of the story. Next, gives a general impression of the content, useful for writing the summary part of a review. That is when you have a hold on this extensive reading, if you have the capacity of this extensive reading. Now, what is the example is? Best example would be when you read a novel for enjoyment, you understand the story, characters, and theme, and this helps you write a basic summary in your review. Now, not only this, if you've noticed when you watch a movie, now after watching it, somebody asks you, like, what was the movie about? Then you kind of narrated extensively. That means you just given kind of a summarize the whole thing about that particular movie, not getting into any detail aspects of it. So that is extensive kind of a reading and extensive writing. Now, role of intensive reading in reviews. What is the role of intensive reading in reviews? So what is it going to, how is it going to help in writing a review? So it helps you analyze details. That is very, very important. A detailed structure. It gives you language and structure. Next, useful for giving critical opinions and evaluation. This is very, very important, right? When can you give criticize something? When can you give an opinion of, which is quite critical? Only if you get into the details and the language and the structure of a particular text. You analyze it. Okay. So that requires intensive reading to give a review. Now, for example, while reviewing an article, you carefully examine arguments, writing style, and facts to give a detailed analysis. Now, what is the role of extensive writing in reviews? So in reviews, what has this extensive writing to do? It helps you express your ideas freely and clearly, useful for writing long answers or full reviews. Now, for example, writing a complete review of a movie with your opinions and thoughts. Right? So this is what the extensive writing does in reviews. Now, what about this role of intensive writing in reviews? So now when we're talking about the intensive writing, where one who sits for writing a review will look for the correct grammar, vocabulary, and format, and makes the review clear and professional. So this is very, very important. See, when you are to be writing some kind of a, a, a report, a review of a report, a review of some professional kind of a text. So you'll have to be very careful about it. That is where the intensive writing comes into play, isn't it? To write a review. Now, for example, writing a well-structured review with proper sentences and correct language, which is very, very important in terms of writing a review. Now, we are going to look at the overall connection of the extensive, intensive reading, extensive, intensive writing in writing the review. Now, when I talk about extensive reading, which looks into understanding the content, intensive reading analyzes the content. Extensive writing, express your ideas. Now, in intensive writing, you present them correctly. So, writing a review requires understanding. That is intensive writing. So, these are the elements which are required for you to write a review. So, let me sum it up. What is a review? It's a piece of writing in which you give your opinion about something such as a book or movie, article, or product. It includes a summary of the content and your evaluation. That means what you liked and what you disliked. A review is nothing but a summary plus opinion. So if you look at the key features of a review, what all things it consists of? It's a sort of brief introduction of the subject, summary of the main content, opinion on evaluation, conclusion, or recommendation. Now, for example, I'm just giving you a small excerpt of this book review of the book Wings of Fire. I'm sure you all know who has, what is this Wings of Fire all about? Yeah, it's an biography of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. So here, now look at this book review. It's very interestingly given. I mean, it's all about what exactly it is. So one who doesn't read the book will get a glimpse of what has been given there. The book describes his journey from a small town to becoming the president of India. It highlights his hard work, dedication, and achievements. The language is simple and inspiring. And the reviewer writes that I found the book very motivating. Look at this. The emotional part also comes into this review. Very motivating, especially for students who want to achieve their goals. Overall, it's a must-read book for everyone. A review is writing that explains and evaluates something by giving both summary and personal opinion. Now, there are different types of reviews. Please remember, can be a book review. I mean, you try to write a review about so many things. Now, for example, when you go for an online shopping, you must have seen a lot of reviews. They're nothing but that the kind of the summarization of that particular product purchased by the customer and whatever the customer had felt about it, they come up with that kind of an opinion or a write-up, and that's a review. So, and it always depends upon the way you evaluate it. So there are different types of reviews: book review, movie review, article review, product review. Okay. So, and service review, literature review, performance review. Okay. So what is this? Book review. It's a review of a book's content, style, and message. What exactly the book talks about, and what is its style, and what is the message given to the readers. Now, for example, reviewing a novel like Wings of Fire by discussing its story and impact. What is movie review? Evaluating of a film story, acting, direction, music, and so on. Next, we have article review. What is an article review? Analysis of a newspaper or a journal article. So, for example, there's an article about climate change. By discussing, you review it. How do you review this article of a climatic change? By discussing its arguments and usefulness. Now, there's something called product review. Just now, I have given an example. Opinion about a product's quality, features, and usefulness. Now, coming to the service review. Now, for example, like you have you visit a hotel or a restaurant or an online service. What is it like? You evaluate the service and give a review. Now, what is a literature review? Summary and evaluation of multiple sources on a topic used in academics. Next. I think we come across this literature review when you are writing an article or probably doing a sort of research. You have this literature review where you kind of summarize or evaluate multiple sources on given topic. Next, we have performance review, evaluation of events like plays, concerts, or presentations. The performance is being reviewed. And so reviews can be about books, about movies, articles, products, services, literature, or performances, depending on what is being evaluated. So first and foremost, I'll just give you what are the basic things you need to consider before writing a review. Now, you have to follow some important steps to make your review clear, balanced, and effective. Understand the content. Read, watch, or use the item carefully if it's a product. Next, get a clear idea of the main theme or purpose. Say, for example, watch the full movie or read the complete book before reviewing it. Know the purpose of the review. Why? Decide first and foremost why you are writing the review. Inform, evaluate, or recommend what exactly it is. You should understand the purpose of it. Then identify the key points like the content, the story, what are the strengths and weaknesses, what are the key features of it. So, for example, if it's a movie, you look for the acting, the direction, music, and story. I think you will still remember when somebody asks you, you go around telling everybody, oh, this is like this, the movie was like this. The movie, the ending was not very nice, it was quite tragic. No? So we discuss and we come up with a sort of review of that in a very informal way. That is nothing but a review. And then you take notes, write down your thoughts while reading or watching. That is very important. Whenever you are reading something, may it be an intensive, may it be an extensive, just maintain certain notes, jot down points, your thoughts. As you read something, there might be some sort of, a feeling in your mind that, the thought process, whatever it is, just put it down. Helps you remember important details. Then analyze critically. Think deeply about what is good, what can be improved. Is the book interesting? Is the information useful? Then know your audience. That is very, very important. When I say audience, I'm not talking about the viewers. It's anybody for that matter. It could be readers, or it could be the audience who are listening, okay, or who are watching. Then, when you write a review, you have to write it according to who is going to read your review. Is it for the students? Is it for the general public? So that it should be written accordingly. And be objective and honest. Give a balanced opinion. Avoid being too biased. What is biased? That is you taking sides of one particular thing, or you are trying to be, you know, uh, taking a stance about one particular thing, which is like not correct. You have to give a balanced opinion about that. Then plan the structure. Decide how you will organize. Uh, it should be like this, like the introduction, summary, evaluation, conclusion. So, before writing a review, understand, analyze, take notes, and plan your ideas clear. Now, we are moving into block 2. The block 2 has units. I think 3 units are in the second block, which is daily. Yeah, it's about writing an essay where we have a descriptive essay, argumentative essay, and analytical essay. Now, we're going to talk about the essays in this particular block. So, to start with, we are going to start with a descriptive essay. So, basically, what is an essay? If I'm going to define about it, it's a structured piece of academic writing that presents ideas, arguments, or descriptions in a coherent form. Right. So, what is coherent? Yeah. Coherent is nothing but it's a logical form. It's a logical sequence. There should be some meaningful connection between the sentences, one after the other. The flow, the transition should be logical. That is coherent. Okay. And as essay, it typically includes introduction, body paragraphs, conclusion. So the essays may be formal, that is academic, or informal, which can be personal. For example, a research essay analyzing climate change policies. Right. Now here, these are the major types of essays which we are going to learn in this second block. What are they? Descriptive essay, which describes vividly. The title itself tells you the topic, the saying the descriptive essay, that's something to do with description, isn't it? So it describes vividly. And there's something called narrative essay, where it tells a story. When you read the essay, you can see the narration in that. It's like somebody is telling you a story. Expository essay. Expository essay is something which explains and informs. Then argumentative essay. That is nothing but it persuades. It tries to convince the readers. Okay? So each type of this essay serves a different rhetorical purpose and requires different writing strategies. What is a descriptive essay? To start with, the first unit talks about descriptive essay. I'm sure in your school days, we all have done this descriptive essay. So we either an image is given for you to describe looking at the image, or an idea is given asking you to describe thinking about that particular concept. Okay, so here the descriptive essay creates a vivid picture using words. So when you are describing, you use a lot many words to explain, describe about that particular aspect. Now it focuses on sensory details such as sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, imagery, and figurative language. What is it? The figurative language, such as the similes, metaphors, personification, and so on and so forth, right? So then it may describe a place, a person, an object, event, or emotion, anything it could be. So, for example, fear is the tightening of breath and the echo of footsteps is in an empty hallway. So the moment you read the sentence, I mean, there is nothing like, there's no picture given there for you to imagine. It's the words which tell you there is something. Like fear is the tightening of breath and the echo of footsteps in an empty hall. I mean, see, when you look at this descriptive essay, the specialty is it will never tell you. It will make you feel about it. It only shows, it never tells you. So when whatever it is, may be emotions, may be sensory details, or whatever it is, it will never tell you. It shows, it makes you feel that with the help of the descriptive words. Now, what is the purpose of a descriptive essay? That is what I told you. To show, not tell. So for example, I mean, you don't directly tell that I am sad. See, when I say something directly, I am sad or I am happy, what am I doing here? I am telling you directly. But instead, if I have to show it, I can add a statement saying that, oh, I felt as if I'm on cloud nine. So here indirectly, I'm trying to show you that I am very happy. So descriptive essay, the main purpose is to show the reader and to create emotional impact, sensory experience, strong imagery. So when you talk about the academic purpose of this descriptive essay, what is the purpose of this academically? It develops linguistic creativity and you play with words. So that is what is linguistic creativity. It enhances observational skills. I mean, when you start writing a descriptive essay, you are very observant. You observe things keenly. And it improves expressive writing. That is, You are quite clear in your expressions. There is a clarity in your expressions. Now coming to, for example, if I just give you, instead of it was hot, see, this is what I told you just now. It was hot, I am trying to tell you directly. But if I want to show you using words, the air clung to my skin like a damp cloth. So you quickly imagine it. I mean, the situation there, what is that happening? And then you will understand, oh, probably the person is perspiring a lot or sweating a lot. Maybe the weather is hot. You start imagining by reading those words and the sentence there. So I am, as a writer, will never tell you something directly, but instead show you. That is what is the specialty of descriptive writing. Now coming to the features of descriptive writing. We use a lot of sensory images and a lot of figurative language like the metaphors, similes, where we don't tell directly. Instead, we compare it with something like a metaphor or a simile. Then we use for a descriptive writing. Precise vocabulary is being used. Strong organization, spatial and chronological. Pulsed with color, voices rising like waves. So here, you only have to imagine looking at that vocabulary. Now, there are stages in writing descriptive essay. What are they? Pre-writing, planning or structuring, drafting, revising, editing, final, presentation. These are some of the steps you have to remember when you start to write a descriptive essay. So when I talk about the pre-writing stages, what all things does it comprise of? This is the primary step where idea generation. You choose a focused topic, brainstorm sensory details. And ask, what do I see? What do I hear? What do I smell? Or what do I feel? Looking at this, the topic or whatever it is you have selected. Next. Now, for example, railway station. So the moment you focus on a particular topic, you will try to brainstorm all the different kinds of sensory details. So you have to imagine your presence in that particular location or the railway station. So when I talk about the sounds, it is whistles. You come across announcements going on in a station, right? Then the smell of a diesel, tea, okay? Or could be some. Now, what do you do after getting to an idea? You have to arrange the ideas using spatial order, that is the left to right. Always remember chronological order, time-based. Okay, it's from the either from the older to the new or the new to the older ones in a fashion called the chronological order, and from left to right. Then create an outline. So basically, what is an outline here? I'm talking about the first impression. That's the introduction, would be the first impression. When we were talking about the railway station, what is the first impression? Then the body, one comprises of all the visual details, right? So try imagining when you are describing a railway station, what all visually you were to see over there. Then coming to the second, sounds and smells. Okay. Then the third one, emotional impact of that particular topic. So that is the second stage where you organize your ideas in this manner. Then the third stage would be thesis development. What is thesis development? The main idea, what exactly you are planning to come up with that descriptive thing of that particular idea. So the main central impression is nothing but the thesis. So for example, the old railway station is a living archive of human stories and fleeting emotions. Right. Now next we are moving on to the writing stages. So till now it was all about the pre-writing stage, isn't it? Now the writing stage. So we have the first one, that is drafting. So after all this brainstorming of these things in your mind, now you start to draft. What do you do here? You write freely using imagery, figurative language, and specific details. So the platform trembled with the arrival of the train. Its metallic roar slicing through conversations. Look at this. You see a lot of imagery here and a figurative language and specific details. Okay. See the metallic roar. Yeah. Slicing through conversations. So this is how you are going to draft it. You will draft it freely. Okay. Then you are going to develop the body paragraph. That's stage 5. So each paragraph should have one dominant impression. Okay. Now use transitions beyond the platform, near the entrance. So these transitions are very important. It's like a kind of, keep the flow, a logical flow about that particular essay. Now, for example, the tea stall exhaled warmth. Its aroma weaving through the cold morning air. Okay. So this is, now we are trying to develop it with one particular dominant impression. Now coming to the post-writing stages. So we have come up with pre-writing and post-writing stages. What do you do? Revising, improve clarity. Just go back to your written text. See what exactly. Try improving the clarity, the coherence, depth of description. And you also please check whether the sensory details are vivid. What do I mean by vivid? Are they clear? Okay. Sometimes there might be a kind of a disconnection between what you actually feel like and what you want to express. So you have to check. And is the imagery original? You can kind of be very creative about the imagery, but it should be somewhat close to the original. Now, for example, the room was messy. It looks very weak. Instead, you can write books lay scattered. Now, for example, let me tell you, the room was messy is actually telling you that the room is very shabby and untidy. No, in a descriptive writing, you should show certain things about that, not tell directly. So here the next one is books lay scattered like fallen leaves across the dusty floor. Okay, so the comparison, if you look at it, the similes used here, the comparison looks quite natural here, isn't it? Like original. Yeah. Now coming to editing part of it, look for the grammar, punctuation, word choice, and focus on avoiding cliches. Use precise vocabulary. Precise vocabulary, what do I mean by that? Not something which doesn't fit there. Right? Very precise. I mean, it should be apt to that particular text and avoid cliches. What are cliches? There are sort of phrases which have lost their importance over a period of time for using them repeatedly. Those are cliches. So don't try to use them again and again. So for example, I mean, they actually don't show what is going. I mean, you don't get to know what is it after that. Like, for example, if I say at the end of the day, okay, so what is it? I mean, they're like monotonous. You try to avoid cliches. So that is in this editing stage, this one will come. Now, the final draft, look for the logical flow. Strong introduction and conclusion, consistent tone, okay? And now here I have a few examples to tell you. So here the logical flow, when I tell you, it is the coherence, okay? When I say cohesion, it is about the structure of the sentences. So grammatically, you would have written all the sentences correctly. But if the flow is not logical, it makes no sense. Okay? So the coherence should be there in the final draft. You have to check for a strong introduction and conclusion, consistent tone. That is very, very important. Now, examples, pre versus post writing. So before writing, look at this. Beach. I mean, we are kind of brainstorming with the idea. Okay, beach, notes, blue water, waves, hot sun. Now, after writing, this is how it looks. So that was the idea which you generated before that. And now this is the post writing. The ocean stretched endlessly. Its sapphire waves, whispering secrets to the golden shore, while the sun poured molten light across the horizon. Right. This is the practice strategies. There are certain strategies for you to practice writing a descriptive writing. So daily observation exercises. That is very important to improve your descriptive writing skill. Describe surroundings in 5 senses. What are those 5 sensory things? Your smell, sight, sound, touch, and taste. You have to describe. Then image-based writing, write from pictures. Just take up one picture, start writing it. Imitation practice, rewrite passages in your own style. Vocabulary building, learn sensory and figurative words. That is very, very important. Now, these are some of the common mistakes to avoid. Overuse of cliches. That is what I told you, if you remember. General descriptions, ignoring sensory details. So these are some of the common mistakes usually we get to see in writing a descriptive essays. Now, descriptive essays are creative yet structured academic writing. They require observation, imagination, precision. So good descriptive writing doesn't just describe, it immerses. So when you read it, you will definitely start to feel what the writer has described. So it's very much immerses yourself into it. So this autumn leaf painting is my most cherished artwork because it's not only beautiful, but also meaningful. It's a reminder that life, like the seasons, is full of change, growth, and hope. Now, there's something to do with this descriptive writing here. When we move on to Unit 5, well, there's not much time left. So probably I'll do this tomorrow of the argumentative essay. So here, when I talk about this argumentative essay, what is the difference? It's also an academic writing. In a descriptive, you are describing about something. In an argumentative, you will try to, take a stance. You take a position, you kind of stick to one particular thing and try convincing the opponent as to why you feel that is right, isn't it? So I think We can take it up tomorrow from argumentative essay in the next class. So with this, we finish the session, and I expect you to read your text for the next class. So it will be block 2, and we're going to start with argumentative essay. Right. Thank you very much.